Meeting for Schuylkill County. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all of you that are in attendance tonight. Please sign in if you've not already done so. And if you wish to make a statement or address the board at any issue, wait until recognized by the chair and move to the podium and identify yourself, please. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. That would be appreciated. The meeting will be videotaped by the township. Ask anyone, is anyone else recording the minutes or the meeting tonight? So anyone would know to be aware of it. I'd like to start with the Board of Supervisors minutes from the last month's meeting. Do we have any changes or any discussion on the minutes?
No.
Make the motion to accept it?
There a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We have a number of reports, which you can see. I hope that you've all looked at them to see if that some of you are the Board of Liaison. Do any of you from the Board of Liaison, from the different commissions, have anything to report from the commissions that are important that should be brought up at the meeting tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. So, acceptance of the Department of the committee reports is posted and received by the Board of Supervisors. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 2-minute reports. Anybody have a 2-minute report? Okay. Payment of bills. The treasurer, see how we stand for our monies for this township.
We have a balance of just a little over $1.6 million as of April 30th. We're in really good shape. I did review the bills this afternoon, and I do recommend that all the bills be paid. Does anyone have any questions?
Make that motion? I'll second.
We have payment of bills, okay?
Yeah, I second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And now, announcements. We have an invitation to a Charlestown Township meeting on May the 12th, 2014, a public meeting. They're going to conduct a study to determine the feasibility of a trail connecting DeVault and Phoenixville with the funding provided by the county's Vision Partnership Program and Charlestown Township. The workshop will be held May 12th, 2014, between 7:30 and 9 p.m. in the cafeteria of the Great Valley Middle School, Phoenixville Pike, Malvern, Pennsylvania. In addition, on Thursday, June 12th, there's going to be an affair by Janet Ular, the author of the book entitled Freedom's Cost, the story of Nathaniel Greene, will share this patriot and revolutionary hero story at that event. And if you want to move further forward, which I will be announcing later, but we have an affair on Wednesday, September 10th 2014, Mike McGrath, the host of the nationally syndicated public radio show, You Bet Your Garden, which airs every Saturday at 11 a.m. on WHYY, which airs so that'll be, and then, of course, we have our wonderful Founders Day celebration that will be on November 1st at the Phoenixville Country Club. Is that correct? Okay. So I'll be announcing those as they come up, though. Now, do we have any public participation for anything on the agenda? Only that's on the agenda for now.
Fred, Mary has an
I have just
announcement.
one quick
Oh, I'm
announcement.
sorry.
No, that's all right. I got a call from DEP today. The township was awarded a grant that we had filed last year to offset the cost of the new recycling site. So they have awarded that grant and to the tune of about $112,000.
Wow, great.
I got verbal confirmation today on that, so I just want to let you know. I want to thank Nick Cicerfino too for helping me out with this grant, the
Okay.
recycling site.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Worked out well.
Thank you.
Fred, do we want to have the people speak on the,
Hmm?
do we want to have the people speak on each of the agenda items as opposed to having a mishmash here of stormwater and the grant thing?
Okay. I hope that everyone notices, we have our tremendous, wonderful township manager back this evening. So she's been gone for a while, but it's certainly nice to see her smiling face back and
Yes.
running things again. And thank you to Norm Butts, who filled in for us and everything that he did for us. Thank you very much, Norm.
Thank you, Norm.
Cheers,
Welcome back,
Mary.
Mary.
Welcome back. Bill, old business.
Thanks, Fred. Report that I attended 2 hearings in the DePolo matter, which concerns an application in Schuylkill Township for a ham radio tower. There are 2 police matters and a lease matter that I would like to discuss with you briefly in executive session after the meeting. That's all I have.
All right, I'm going to go back to, again, to the public participation for anything that's on the agenda. Please come forward.
I've never spoken before at a meeting, so do I?
Your name and address?
Okay, that's what I thought. My name's Katie Mattia, and I'm at 35 Cleona Avenue in Phoenixville. I've been there about 3 years. I'm a mother of a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And as much as we love our home, the lack of sidewalks there and along 23 are a real safety issue for us. I understand that there may be a feasibility study being done to determine if, sidewalks are valuable. I can say my 2 kids are one of at least 9 that we know of in the neighborhood. Young kids who we would love to be able to get out and be in the community. We're in walking distance to so many things, but it's just so unsafe on that road to try to get down our street. Nobody seems to abide by the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and then to try to cross at 23, they're at the corner where the insurance agency is. We have that small patch of curb, and when people barrel around that corner again, it's really unsafe for us to try to get over those 2 lanes of traffic. So as nice as it is that we're close to the library, close to Acme, close to the park, it's a real struggle to get off of our street, essentially without the sidewalks.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you very much. We'll move into the, whoops, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. It's the agenda.
It's the agenda.
Good evening. My name is Paul O'Leary. I live on 9 Vincent Road. Also, I'm here to speak to the sidewalk issue. We've lived there about 26 years, and I live 2 doors up from the corner of 23 and Vincent. My kids are growing now, growing me out of my house. But there's many times when we try to get into town or to the Acme or even over to the Exxon, and a a lot of my neighbors who have younger kids have, even when they're in strollers, strolling them along 23 or up along the grasses. And it's just, well, everybody who drives that road knows how dangerous it is. There's been, I can't tell you how many times there's been accidents at the corner of my street, let alone Rossiter and Cleona. Not that the sidewalks would stop that, but it would give us a fighting chance to be off the road. As it is now, you know, we walk on the people's properties that are along that road, and during the winter time, especially this past winter, it was just, you know, unnavigable, and so you ended up walking on the street, which was even compounded by the snow and the ice. But in the summertime, a night like tonight, with a little bit of rain, they're like mud troughs that go along people's properties. I realize there's some people that are against it for property value reasons, and I've heard both sides of that story from different realtors I've talked to last week. But my point really is for the length of time that we've lived there, to have an access to the rest of the borough, to connect up with the borough's walkways would be an immense help. And it would make life much more livable, and in my opinion would help our community. Now the town becomes one, even though it's the borough or the township, it still finishes that one link between White Horse and Star Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is John Maffa. I'm a township resident of 37 years on Cleona Avenue on the 200 block. And I'm here in support of our previous witnesses, if you will, for the inclusion of sidewalks. I have a young child, 12 years old, not as young as Katie's. But I'm fortunate enough to have the school bus pick her up at our house because the originally designated stop on the corner of Anderson and Cleona was just too hazardous. And relating to the level of hazard, Cleona Avenue, which I'm sure you're all aware, has quite a long 100 block and quite a short 200 block. And in the 37 years that I've been here, the speed is along those two stretches has grown exponentially. And I have to admit that I've been guilty on the 100 block, but I live in the 200 block, which is right in the middle, and I've seen cars come down there in excess of 50 miles an hour. So the safety issue of traffic on Cleona Avenue anyway, that I'm immediately witness to, is of paramount concern to me. And so I would support our previous speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chief, you taking notes? Thank you.
Only if the item's on the agenda.
What's on the agenda?
It's up here.
When do you get into new business?
We'll
It's
do
on
it.
the new business.
Public participation for matters not on the agenda is at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Black. I live on 105 Cleona Avenue. And I'm also here in support of the sidewalks, as well as perhaps a stop sign, where my wife has even said, while you know, this is the speed you're doing down the street, to at least make it more recognizable to people driving down the street that they are doing that rate of speed. I think if you see it, it's more of a, you know, you're doing wrong. So hopefully that would work. I do support the sidewalks as well as some stop signs and anything else we can do.
Thank you very much. Anybody else on? Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Would you sign in, please?
Yes, sir. My name is John Dean. I live on 80 Cleveland Avenue. Two small children, and I've been here for a little over a year, and I came from Vincent Road. And I'm just really surprised by the disregard for the speed limit on Cleveland Avenue. You know, I take my children for walks to parks and other areas, so a sidewalk would definitely help, but any sort of speed device or, you know, traffic device would help people slow down in that long 100 block stretch. would, that's gonna save somebody's life. And to the other person's point earlier, I've seen kids, high school kids doing 50, 60 miles an hour, and that's a lost license right there, man. That's absurd. So I definitely support the movement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Is this for items on the agenda? I have a horseshoe trail issue I wanted to talk about. Is it?
We're coming into the horseshoe trail shortly.
Okay.
That's on the agenda, so. In fact, it's the next item coming up on the agenda. Then you can, then I'll have you stand and talk about it. All right, we'll go into the, any other old business?
Nope.
Okay, we'll go into the new business discussion regarding stormwater concerns on eroded portions of High Point Lane and Horseshoe Trail. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Luke Jennings. I think you have all the information that I've sent out. I could talk about the project. I could show you some movies on the video if you'd like.
Yeah, you
I
just,
can't-
you just sent something over, in fact, didn't you?
I did.
Yes, I
Okay,
received
well,
it.
briefly, it's a proposed project to stop stormwater from running off High Point Lane. And it's caused severe erosion for the landowners, 3 landowners specifically, and it's also cut a canyon across the Horseshoe Trail, which is a heavily used trail that goes to Valley Forge Park, and it's also used by a lot of local residents. What we're seeking is for the township to endorse our proposed solution so that we can seek grant money and also possible county and state money to pay for some of the project. And that's about it. I'm happy to answer questions about the information that's sent to you if you'd like to ask questions. Also, I wanted to introduce Karen Zach. She's the president of the Valley Forge Mountain Association. This project is, it's a joint effort of the Valley Forge Mountain Association, the Horseshoe Trail Conservancy, and the 3 neighbors who were affected by the erosion. And we've come up with a plan. We've had a proposal from Paul Razone. I don't know if he's here tonight. Yep. Oh, there he is. From PR Environmental Designs, and the proposal looks good to us. I illustrated it on page 4 of the proposal. It's going to cost some money. We don't expect the township to pay for it because it is on private property, but we do want cooperation so that when we go seeking money, then we can say the township is backing us. So that's basically what we're asking for tonight. Does anybody have any questions about the proposal?
The resident, what's the address right here? The resident on Forge Mountain Drive.
Yes, John Alexander.
Yeah, 1776. First of all, is he here?
He was planning to be here.
Okay. To me, the $64,000 question is since you're looking at looks like a submerged stormwater retention basin.
It would be above ground.
Above ground, okay. Whether it's above or below ground. It looks like the prime candidate is the back of his property.
It is.
And the question is is he in agreement to that?
He is.
Oh, he is, good.
He is, because right now he's got a severely eroded canyon in his backyard that he'd be happy to get rid of. And he also has a very long lot, as you can see. You know what, I have copies if anybody would like a copy of the proposal. And his lot is very long, and he said he doesn't use that part of the lot. He wouldn't mind if we built a storm retention basin there. And he's okay with the idea, but it's tentative, because obviously he can't agree to anything until he sees exactly what the proposal is.
Right.
But in theory, yes, he agrees with it.
Okay. Another question that I had here. You mentioned applying for grants. Did you have any specific grants that you were thinking about?
Yes, we do. I have a list. I haven't applied yet or even sent them a notice of interest. But It's in the proposal, it's exactly where. Just bear with me for 1 second. The William Penn Foundation, Trout Unlimited, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, George and Miriam Martin Foundation, and anybody else that might give us a
Here, by the way.
In 2010, the Horseshoe Trail Conservancy and Valley Forge Mountain Association worked together to repair a quarter-mile section of the trail, and for that project, we received a grant from the George and Miriam Martin Foundation that paid for materials. And there was 11 volunteers from both organizations that did all the work.
Yeah, I noticed the pictures. It looks like it was pretty well thought out.
Thank you. You want to watch movies? Or I don't want to take too much of the time. I'm sure you guys have a lot of work to do, but
I have another comment.
Sure.
I actually was up there after you appeared at, I guess, our last meeting, and took a look, actually walked Horseshoe Trail from High Point Lane down to Forge Mountain. It's more than just an erosion problem at the top of the hill, if you will, at the start of High Point Lane. That erosion problem continues from various locations. It's not at this point coming from up there that I can tell. It's like a little valley there, and the water's coming down from both sides, and then to compound things, there's numerous trees that have fallen down and been uprooted. So it's at the very least an environmental challenge.
well, the Horseshoe Trail Conservancy is responsible for maintaining the trail along its whole 140-mile length from Valley Forge Park to Harrisburg. But that maintenance mainly consists of taking out down trees that are blocking the trail. And when there's an erosion issue, usually the trail is rerouted, because west of here, there's a lot more land to reroute the trail. As you've seen, we can't really do that. The trail kind of straddles the property lines between people's houses, but we are able to address those issues, but we have to fix that one stormwater problem first, or anything we do would get washed out. So if we can fix that one ditch, and the rest is going to be just, I would say piece of cake, it's going to be a lot easier.
Well, I did notice that it seemed to me anyway that the rest of the trail as you go downhill is really up a couple of 3 feet above the stream, and there may be another crossing, but that's about it.
Well, that trail has had very little maintenance over the years. It's actually been open to the public since 1935, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we plan to fix it, but we can't do anything until we get this done.
Yeah.
Do you have a home association?
Valley Forge Mountain Association is a volunteer homeowners association. It's not required, so it's not an organization that you have to pay into. It's completely voluntary. And about half the residents of the mountain are members. It's about approximately 200 families. And I was a board member of the VFMA, but my term has just expired. Bill, did you want to say something?
Oh, I do. If this project goes ahead, you would need to go under the roadway with a pipe, is that correct?
No, right now there is a pipe under the road. It's old and partially blocked, but we believe, Paul, do you think that?
Well, but we'd have to look into the condition of the pipe. Right now it's kind of blocked. We think we probably just clear it out, but it needs a more substantial inlet on the upslope side of this. But hopefully, the pipe would be found to be in usable condition, or if not, repairable by liner or something without tearing up the road.
So there's no plan to open up, at this point, there's no plan to open up the excavated, open the road or any of that? Okay.
No, although we're planning to put 2 new inlets on the downhill side of High Point Lane, which would collect the stormwater and funnel it to the detention basin.
So this is the same water that's just going to be channeled differently and into the detention basin. You're not increasing the flows in any way, is that correct?
Actually, it will significantly decrease the flow. We'll be able to catch a significant amount, which would slow the erosion downstream that you saw on the trail, and it would also alleviate a serious problem at where stormwater frequently is not able to go under the Forge Mountain Drive, and it flows over and causes additional flooding for a lot of people in the neighborhood.
And I need to disclose for the record, I live up there and I belong to this association, and I take no advocacy position on its behalf.
When you came to the EAC meeting, you said you were going to talk to different, did you?
No, I was waiting for some endorsement from Schuylkill Township. I don't want to,
Okay.
the first thing they're going to ask me is, how does Schuylkill feel about this? And I'd like to say that they love it, so that's why I'm here.
Well, I, for one, is in support of your efforts. I mean, if you're not seeking funds from the township, but are applying for grants elsewhere, go for it, as far as I'm concerned.
I support it.
So, you know, to that end, I think I'd make a motion that we support.
Before you vote on it,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the township wouldn't be invited to participate in some way financially.
I'm sure.
They shouldn't be expected to pay for all of it, but the parts that are the curbing, the inlet, that's probably township jurisdiction, and I would think that they'd want to participate in that at least. But that's up to you guys, if, you know.
Well, you're coming before us as representing both, what, the Mountain Association and the Horseshoe Trail
I
Conservancy?
have their endorsements to speak to, yes.
Yeah.
And the homeowners. There's
And the Valley Forge Homeowners Association.
Homeowner, two homeowners.
Right.
Well, that's not the homeowner, I'm talking about the affected by erosion homeowners.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, I'd just make a motion that we, as a township, basically encourage Mr. Jennings as representing both the Mountain Association and the Horseshoe Trail Conservancy pursuing grants to fix the stormwater problem. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to contribute or not contribute, but basically support their efforts to solve the problem.
Mhm.
I'll
Second that.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You're fine.
I'll second that. Thank you,
Any more discussion on it? All in favor?
Mark. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Second item is discussion regarding stormwater concerns at 1637 Jones Lane.
It's Jones Avenue there, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me?
Jones Avenue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Hello, my name is Brock Griffel. I live at 1637 Jones Ave. First off, I want to thank Mary and the board for your time tonight, your insight, and ultimately your assistance. I did send over to Mary, but it was last minute, the updated PowerPoint, so I did bring copies with me in case you don't have it. They're all in color. You already have them. So essentially, I'm here to inform the board of a problem. Roughly approximately 9 acres of watershed contribute to 2 inlets on Horseshoe Trail Road. These inlets convey stormwater runoff across my property and then down to the properties below me. This runoff, however, is not safely conveyed across my property. And as a result, it causes severe erosion, flooding, tree loss, and loss of time. On the first page, I included a contour. Inside that contour, I also show the highlight of the area of runoff, and that's how the 9 acres was calculated. On slide or page 2, I have an illustration showing the water routes that lead towards my house at 1637 Jones. As the contour spoke to, that whole area to the south is a high point which pushes water down towards Horseshoe Trail, which has an inlet which is labeled as the main drain. There's also a second inlet labeled as second drain. Both of those basically daylight onto my property at one point or the other, and then flow down to the 2 properties below me. That also constitutes roughly 1/3 of a mile of impervious surface. The next plot that I have is on page 3. It's titled Satellite Image with Lot Lines and Water Pathways. So again, that's just to show you where the inlet is on Horseshoe Trail and Jones Ave, and the pathway that water takes across my property. Next, I've included some pictures. The first page is a picture of the one inlet that is on Horseshoe Trail. It's submerged at the moment. The next picture is the main drain daylighting onto the property adjacent to me. On page 5 is a homeowner designed or installed rock ditch that unfortunately is not adequate. You can see the velocity and the volume of flow going down that rock ditch. And that's, as you can see, there's no rain, it's just everyday occurrence, it's not a heavy rain. The next is a picture of where that water daylights behind my property. And you can see again the volume that's coming out. All of that water then drains onto the properties below me. You can also see typical erosion that happens when the water hops over the rock ditch. So some history. I've been there 3 years. I've already installed several $1,000s to prevent the flooding of my home, which happened several times. Additionally, to try and prevent the erosion, tree loss due to the stormwater runoff that's conveyed across my property. During heavy rainfall, my homeowner designed and constructed rock ditch, as I said before, and pipe system is not sufficient to safely convey the flow across my property. The volume and the velocities are just too high. It creates the ditch overtopping that I spoke about earlier, which then flows onto my driveway and into my house. It overpasses the piping system that was there when I moved into the house, and then it flows into the side of my house. It creates a heavy amount of erosion. The volume and velocities of water have increased since the road was repaved last year. Additionally, some blacktop curbing was put in, and also some curbing was put in to help channel the waterways into those two inlets. That has made the water flow onto my property even worse. So where it has helped, obviously, keep debris off the roadway, keep water off of everyone else's property, unfortunately, the negative is it's brought an increased flow to my property. Probably the most significant thing is during any rain events, I must be at my house maintaining that rockway ditch. I have to leave work often. I have to lose work often because I'm there for hours at a time. I've woken up in the middle of the night many a times having landscapers bring over sandbags to prevent the flow from going into my house. Most of this has happened since the roadway has been improved.
Can I interrupt you here at this point?
Sure thing.
Can we flip back to the aerial or the parcel map with the,
Yep.
the red labels?
Absolutely.
I'm looking at this, and I think I see possibly where that water is going from your house. What is this, if you see where the drain daylight in the back of the house, that arrow at the top there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it meets that blue line? Just to
Yes.
the right of that, looks like a light line of some kind of a pathway heading down towards the house below.
That's correct.
And what is that?
That was additional rocks that were put in before I bought the house.
Okay,
Unfortunately, water was found at low spot, and those rocks are built up such that, you know, it actually channels the water to the west of them.
okay, all right. Now, it also seems apparent that there's some kind of a line from, I'll call it the left, the rear corner of your house, up to the back of your property, or down to the back of your property, meeting that other line, or sort of meeting it, and then again going into the next property below. And I guess my question is, where can you indicate on this
Yeah.
overview where your water is exiting and where it goes down the hill?
Yeah, I probably didn't do a great job at explaining that. So if I can point to the map that you're looking at, The inlet is right on Horseshoe Trail. It relates onto my property, the property next to me. It follows that blue line. That blue line is actually over the rock ditch that I have shown in the pictures.
Okay,
It enters a drain right there, otherwise it would go right through my house.
yeah,
It's then piped on the side of my house and then comes right up where the drain daylight indicator is.
okay,
It then roughly follows that blue line that I have overlaid on the
Okay.
satellite image.
okay,
The secondary pathway is an inlet that's on Jones Ave. And again, it follows the blue line roughly as I've drawn it on the satellite image.
okay. Is there any other water pathway that's coming around behind your house? It's just these two that we're talking about, basically?
I mean, obviously it chooses its own path to some extent,
Yeah.
especially in heavy rains, but roughly that's what I see routinely.
All right, so basically, these two paths join into one, in essence, and head down towards this next property, which I don't know what it is, but it's clearly
That's my
on
neighborhood
Continental
district.
Continental Drive.
Correct.
So my question is that property owner concerned about this?
They're very concerned about it.
Okay.
Have been for 10 years.
If any of the grants were accepted by the people at High Point Lane and such, would that alleviate your problem?
Now, unfortunately, this is an absolutely, completely separate circumstance.
Would it soften the blow? Would it do
No,
anything
it's
whatsoever?
unrelated.
Oh, it's on the side of the mountain.
Yeah, it's
It's
mutually,
on the west side, and we're on the east.
it's mutually exclusive.
This is where they are.
So my request
Oh, okay.
is to initiate a study to investigate my
Yeah.
drainage complaint. Second would be to obtain a drainage easement across my property to allow the township to construct and maintain a system that safely conveys stormwater from the neighborhood past my home. And to construct a piping system past my home to safely convey the stormwater runoff. That pipe would likely be an 18 to 24 inch pipe.
Is Horseshoe Trail still a private road? Is it not?
This
Debbie?
portion is not, this portion is township maintained.
It is,
Yeah.
Nick, we plow it and everything?
Horseshoe Trail, yeah.
The whole thing?
No, it goes to Tredyffrin side. Tredyffrin picks up past the swing club.
Okay.
How far past Horseshoe Point would that be?
Right at the swim club is where the township line is.
Oh, okay.
Tredyffrin takes over. It's a Horseshoe Point, and then that's the township.
Yeah, okay.
That incidentally is the high point. Where that swim club cutoff is, every bit of water from that spot hits the inlet that I'm speaking of. There's no other inlets on the whole entire span of roadway, and it's all downhill. So last is, I just wanted to say, as I opened up with, is I need your help with dealing with the neighborhood's water.
Have you had that problem since you've moved into your home?
I've had a portion of the problem, however, as I alluded to, it's gotten much worse since the road improvements went in. Before, where the roads were alligatored on the sides and water spread out more evenly amongst all the houses that were there. You know, thankfully, the township repaved that road, put curbing in, and they do an amazing job. I see the gentleman behind me all the time, doing an amazing job maintaining that roadway. And like I said, it's helped many others along the road. Unfortunately, it's made it worse for us. So a portion of the problem was there when I started. I have no problem dealing with the own raw water that comes down my property from the frontage that I have. The issue is it's just way too much water from a much, much larger area than I should have to deal with. These pictures do speak to some of the problems. However, I included a link that you can get to videos. When you see the videos, it makes a much larger impact. I do have a laptop here if you had time to look at it. I realize I've probably taken up more time than I wanted to already. But the videos, if you could put yourself in my position and see the volume of water that gets dumped onto the front of my house, and put yourself in that position and think of that being your house, then I think that you would understand the breadth of the problem that I and my neighbors face.
You don't mind us swinging by and taking a look
Absolutely
at it,
not.
especially in rainstorms?
Anytime it's raining.
Okay, all right.
I'll be there cleaning it.
If I could, Nick, on Continental Drive, there are storm drains, are there not?
Yes.
Okay, so that this water that comes from his property across this lady's property here, eventually hits a storm drain at some point, right there on Continental, right?
It bleeds through the property, it's Joe Ryan's property.
Yeah, yeah. So what we have here is we have one development, Continental Drive, with a storm drain system, okay? And we have another development, if you will, part of Horseshoe Point, part of Horseshoe Trail, with no storm drain system. So the question to me is, should the township be thinking about taking care of our residents in a flooding situation like this and making a storm drain connection between one road to the other road, where that same water is traveling overground now? The difference would be it would be in a controlled fashion and go underground, which is, I think, what the gentleman's proposing.
Correct.
So that's the question.
And as I stated in there, I'd be happy to give an easement to the township to do that. And I can't speak for my other neighbors. I have spoken to them, one of them is here. I think everyone would be happy to work with the township to alleviate the current state of affairs.
Having said what I said, we're sort of into a gray area here. We have done some quasi-public improvements, and it's in the township record. It's public information. Pickering Glen over here, there was an issue with the development and the walking path around the development. The trail was basically breaking apart because we thought we would approve a development with a pervious trail. Well, the pervious trail really didn't work. And so we basically went 50-50 with the homeowners association in putting a asphalt path in. So there's some precedent for cost sharing. So I thought I'd just mention that. That's my
You have any
comment.
other comments from,
No.
any other discussion?
No.
I think we need some time to think about this. I don't know that we would be able to make a decision about this evening. I know that, I hope you
I wouldn't
weren't.
expect so.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to talk about it.
One more thing on this. I'm just looking at your graphic here in the parcel map. It strikes me that, I don't know, Nick could maybe address this. It strikes me that if there was a drain installed, it really could intercept the water before it gets to Jones Avenue, and then tie into Continental Drive somehow.
Jim,
Which
you
would,
gotta understand, the engineer has to do a study.
I understand.
The pipes on Continental are only sized for Continental. That development went in later. So typically, farther down you go, the bigger the pipes go.
Yeah,
You know that.
yeah.
Yep.
So there will be some pipes that have to be changed on Continental if you go that route. It's an engineering thing.
The only thing I would say to that is my property and the properties below me are accepting zero water. This water is moving so fast, as you'll see in the videos. My property is not accepting a drop, not a drop. And so it is already going into the drains of Continental. It's just going across our property and bringing a lot of dirt with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Cutting the ruts, like
Correct.
14-inch ruts through the front of our property.
So then that raises the question, Nick, have we experienced bubbling up, if you will, on these huge storms we've had from a continental storm drain, let's say at the bottom of, towards Oakwood Lane?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I know the gentleman gets a hell of a lot of water. He's right.
Yeah, yeah,
That was the old Orloff property. People are familiar with that.
right.
Do you think we ought to take a study of it,
What's that?
make a study of it?
Well, I think at the very least, we should take a look at it and get an engineer opinion. You know, it's, we should think about it, I think, basically, and
I
revisit
think,
this.
yeah, I think we need
and
to think
revisit
about
this
it, and I
again.
think we need to revisit it.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about it some
It-
more.
It does, it gets to policy for the
Yeah.
township.
Sets a precedent.
So I'm, you know, I don't think we can make a decision tonight.
I know I'm not prepared to make a decision this evening. I'm sorry, I feel your pain.
No, I understand, and I realize I probably presented a lot of information, so I wasn't expecting necessarily an answer.
Yeah, but you did a good job, by the way.
But, thank you.
Yep.
And as I said before, I really appreciate Mary's time in setting this up and everyone on the board's time.
Mr. Chairman, before we leave this topic, could the neighbor next, down the hill from this gentleman, Mr. Ripple?
Sure, of course.
Have a
Hi.
chance to say something?
My name is Rosemary Ryan. I live at 120 Continental Drive. I've experienced the water issue for the last 14 years that we've lived there, and I understand the Orloff situation and so on. I've witnessed that pipe that comes down and onto Brock's property, and the pipe is about 12 or 18, 16 inches in diameter, and it shoots water out as if it were a fire hydrant, and it shoots it right onto his property. At one point, it only came down, it damaged his property terribly, but it was only affecting me in the front of my garage, and then down my driveway, and then causing the ruts in a Y shape down the front of my lawn. Since the new drain was put in on Jones Avenue, I now have 3 streams of water coming from behind that property that come down the hill onto my driveway also. When I moved there, I guess I was there about 6 years, and I could not believe the amount of water that was coming. It looked like a creek coming down our driveway, to the point where I called the police. And I said, please come and witness this. I cannot believe the water was up higher than my ankles, and I had no control over it. And it's eroding our driveway, and it's eroding our property, the front of our house, and the trees, the base of the trees. Now, we had 2 trees come down in the storm, one that hit our house. But I can't blame that on the water. I'm just saying there are so many trees that this erosion is just going to cause more trees to fall down. And again, I thank you for your continued effort with and addressing this issue, but it's been 14 years that I've been there and begging and pleading for help, but not knowing where to turn. And Brock did a great job in the presentation, so thank you for letting me speak.
Then on the item regarding the stormwater concerns at 1637 Jones Avenue, I'm going to table it for tonight, and we'll bring it up at our next monthly meeting. Next item on the agenda is discussion to appoint an alternate to the police committee. Jim?
Well, we are in another cycle of police negotiations. And the police are an important part of the township's operation, in fact, a very important part of the township's operation. And there may be a time when we need to have both the primary liaison, or call liaison, to the police department and the vice chair, supplemented by an alternate board member if one of those 2 individuals can't participate in whatever discussions are going on between the Board of Supervisors and the police. So that was my thought, and it was decided to have a discussion on this. So that's where we are.
I hear any more discussion? I hear a motion.
Well, I'd like to get some input from the chair and the vice chair here as to
Well, I
what your
don't
thoughts
think,
are.
I don't think we need one, and also you run into the possibility of sunshine law too.
That's true.
Which,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't go for whatsoever. I think as we go, I think we're doing well, and also, it confuses it because you've got to keep letting the other person, the third person, know what's going on all the time. And that person really doesn't have a time to discuss or digest what is going along in the discussions or in the ideas of the committee working together between the police force and the Schuylkill Township. So I would say no at this time.
I don't have a problem bringing it up down the road if there is an issue for an alternate, or we have to appoint another person, but I really don't think there's, like, I'm on board with Fred, where I'm okay right now, we got everything situated, and we're starting a discussion, so I want to keep it status quo right now with what we have, and we seem to got a pretty good team right now. I don't want to mix it up just yet, so I don't want to go into too much detail on it.
No. Martha, do you have anything, any thoughts?
They're the ones that are holding the discussions, and they seem to be happy with everything. I don't see a need to change it at the moment,
Okay.
but I see down the road, if something were to happen, discussing it then, but I don't think it needs to be, I don't think anything needs to happen right now.
Okay.
All
Thank you
right,
for bringing it up.
motion to take, there's no motion, so it was just a discussion,
Yep.
so, okay. We'll move right along on resolutions and ordinance then. A motion to advertise an ordinance to adopt minimum standards applicable to emergency communication systems within the structures.
Make that
Fred.
motion?
Just a second now, Fred, may I explain where we are on this?
Sure.
At your last meeting, you had authorized advertising of an ordinance which was, I guess I can say in public, plagiarized from West Brandywine, the same ordinance that they had passed for
West
the...
Bradford?
West Bradford, I'm sorry. And we did that to facilitate Chester County's requirement for the indoor amplifiers for police and fire needs. However, after you passed that motion, we learned from the Department of Labor and Industry that there were criticisms of the West Bradford ordinance, and as a consequence, West Bradford had not enacted their ordinance, but was in fact, I guess, reviewing it to determine whether they would amend it to comply with the recommendations of L&I. Thus, we made an executive decision to hold off the advertising to save the money, to bring it back to you and say maybe we should wait to see whether these two issues can be dealt with or whether we should do it ourselves. And Madeline called today to find out the status of the West Bradford status, and I understand they have not yet resolved that issue. What L&I is concerned about are some very technical requirements concerning minimum signal strength of -95 BDM, whatever that is, available in 90% of the area, et cetera. So my recommendation is that this, unless the chief needs it right away, is the chief still here? That we figure out what these concerns are and then bring it back to your attention next month.
Great.
Deputy Chief.
This is the way the specification is written for the county system. It is a very specific bandwidth at a very specific time, at a very specific point on the bot. So I understand that there's some variable pieces there for you guys to look at. It is very stringent, but any improvement, and maybe that's how you're ready to adopt it later. Any improvement, I mean, there's some bare spots in coverage in the line SIG, tech school, for example.
All right, so we have to tailor our ordinance to meet that bandwidth, and we will do that.
And maybe we don't need an ordinance, okay?
Yep.
Because I've just learned today from Mary that in the Uniform Construction Code and also in the Fire Code, both of which we are signed on to, basically, they contain just about everything that this ordinance states in terms of the basic restrictions. But I think what we need to do before we say that that's it, I think we need to take a closer look at those two things, do the necessary comparisons, and then maybe next month make a decision on it.
Yeah.
All right, let's table it then.
Table.
All right,
Sure.
we're gonna table this.
If you need more information, there's a local gentleman that's involved on the committee. I think he's actually the project manager for them. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I can certainly get the information you guys to.
That'd be great. Thanks, Evan.
Maybe you can get that information to Mary?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Next item is to advertise the ordinance amending the Schuylkill Township Historic Properties map and the list of properties, which I think you've all had a chance to look at.
Yes, Fred, there was an amendment to this as well. The map list that you voted on last time did not include the historic bridges. And to make certain that the listing would not be challenged later, Sandy Momeyer, who's here somewhere, has provided us with an update to the historic property map, which contains the bridges, correct? Yes. So the map that is before you for approval is the same one as last time with 9 bridges on it, is that right?
Right.
All right, so I ask for your motion for, to direct the advertising of the same text of the ordinance, but with the appropriate historic properties map, including the bridges.
Just to be clear on this, the new map, the latest map, has the original properties, the additional survey, new survey properties, as well as the bridges.
Yes,
That's correct.
Survey 1, Survey 2, and bridges.
Right.
I'll make the motion.
So I just wanted to ask
Oh.
a question. What happens if the county, the state, or the township needs to replace these bridges? Because some of these bridges aren't bridges, they're culverts.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for saving them, but this becomes a safety issue on the road. And we can't wait to try and build it back historically if a bridge washes out.
Yeah. You got
And
down.
the state and the county may not follow what's historic. They're just gonna put a bridge up.
And to compound things, correct me if I'm wrong, Sandy, but a couple of these bridges are railroad bridges.
Yeah.
And then now we're dealing with Norfolk Southern.
Yeah.
We were asked by the county to add the bridges onto our list.
Okay.
Initially, Bob Wise, who was our consultant, said that they did not include bridges in the past, but it was Karen Marshall through the county's office that said that we should add them onto the list.
I mean, I'm all for listing them and having them on here. I think it's a good idea, but when it comes down to should something need to be replaced, what are we doing?
I can't give you an answer tonight. I can look into it if you like,
Yeah, I
but
just-
my guess would be that the state certainly, and probably the county, would supersede, certainly in an emergency, they wouldn't be looking for a historic review. They'd fix it, I agree with you, and my guess is that they have the power to do that. I can't give you I can't cite the section right now without
Because
looking
this
into
is
it.
public infrastructure. This isn't someone's home, garage, or barn.
Yeah, you got 2 on
This is public
White Horse.
infrastructure.
You got 2 on White Horse, which is a state road. You got 1 on Paulins, which that's more of a bridge. And that's Norfolk Southern.
From a historical point of view, it's great that it's on a map, but from a maintenance and replace, repair, the
Yeah.
roadways, or
Forge Road. Yeah.
Well, we can
Well-
table it, we can look into it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, aren't we, with the historic ordinance, concerned about degradation of the historic resource? And we're basically not in the business of letting our bridges degrade, right?
but we aren't the ones that inspect the bridges. The state inspects their bridges, the county inspects theirs, and we can inspect them. So if the state or county were to say, you need to replace this bridge,
Well, then I think they would, like Bill said, they would supersede the township and it's their bridge.
think the most we could hope for in that circumstance would be some assistance in maintaining its historic integrity, but I don't think we're gonna direct the county or the state as to how to fix their bridge. I just don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think it's a major problem, but.
Well, one example for this discussion is the Williams Corner Bridge here that went across the Pickering Creek, which just got replaced several years ago. It was historic, and we even have an historic marker in the middle of our parking lot. But yet, you know, I don't think we ever had any concerns about, other than retaining the old plaque.
Right, but it wasn't on a list at the time.
Yeah, I know,
That's-
but we
that's
didn't,
my
there was
only concern.
no discussion about it that I can recall.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to advertise the ordinance?
I already made the motion, Fred.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, more discussion?
No, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Anything else on subdivision land development?
We have one more motion, Phil.
Last one of those.
Not on mine.
Motion to pass 2014 applied to CDI grant
Let's see.
funding.
Where?
We did, that was the.
Oh, TST, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
TCBI.
I got it. Motion to pass resolutions 2014-08 to apply for the TCDI grant funding to offset the cost of the feasibility study for a sidewalk on Route 23 to link the township to commercial areas within the borough of Phoenixville. The township must provide 20% of the cost, the total cost of the match.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
I'll just make just a couple of brief comments on this. This was a grant that we could possibly get. There's no guarantees on this whatsoever. When any grant is offered from Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, you're dealing with both sides of the Delaware River competing for that grant. So it's very competitive. And it's only for a feasibility study for such a sidewalk construction. It's not building it, it's not engineering it, it's just to figure out, you know, what's reasonable and what the segment cost may be and that kind of thing. So that's a general comment.
It's a good move, I think.
Then the other thing I wanted to emphasize here is this, if we pass this here tonight to apply, we're moving in a direction which is consistent with multiple levels of planning throughout the area. Okay, it's consistent with the Schuylkill Township's comprehensive plan, where on page 30 it says pedestrian circulation opportunities should be sought and implemented. It's consistent with Schuylkill Township's open space, recreation, and environmental resources plan, where walking is, they did a poll of residents. This is back in 1991 now, but I think it would probably still hold. Walking is the most preferred recreational activity. The Regional Comprehensive Plan, Chester County Landscapes Plan, which we signed on to. Okay, this is a master plan that the county is continually revising, and they're now focusing on the transportation component, in which they say that that municipalities should provide pedestrian connections to and from all transit stop locations, employment centers, and commercial centers, among other things. And then finally, the Delaware Valley 2040 plan. They have a grand plan for the whole region. It's Connections 2040, and one of their big focal points is promoting walkability. So we're in the stream here if we apply for this grant.
We've had the motion, we have had the second. Any more discussion? Oh,
No.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Fred?
May I ask that Jim Morrison and Martha be part of the grant writing committee? We also may need the services of Gilmore Associates to help finalize the grant operation?
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
In fact, we need Gilmore in on this to, if nothing, for nothing else, inform us as to how much we should be asking for.
Good answer.
All in favor? Okay.
What's that?
Okay.
Yep, okay.
All right, anything on subdivision, land development? Anything more in 2-minute reports? Anything on more additional business? All right, I'll move into the public participation.
Is there anything that's not on the agenda?
Not in the agenda.
Okay, excuse me and my friend's appearance, but we were checking on complaints from residents in the park. My name is Jim Keller. I've been a responsible resident of this township for over 24 years. I live in a mobile home park. And it's a very unsafe and unhealthy place to live. On April 14th, there was a sewer leak down at the bottom of the park that goes into a stream, which eventually goes to the Pickering. It was there for months, and I can get other people to attest. That's how long it was there. I called the township that morning. I got a human being. I couldn't believe that. And the secretary said to me, I told her some other serious problems, and she said the code officer would come out. Well, he never showed up. I waited a little while, and then I called the Chester County Health Department. And they came out. I guess it was over an hour before they got to my home, and we walked down to where the leak was. He had to call the park because that's the way you have to do it. You have to call the park. Well, they were working on the leak by the time we got down there.
Excuse me, is this a sewer leak or a
This was a sewer leak, yes. A sewer leak
feeding-
leaking into a stream that goes to the Pickering.
But this is, it's not a septic system, this is a sewer.
Not a what?
It's not a septic system.
Well, no, it's a sewer leak.
Okay.
It's a sewer. Later that afternoon, I called up the code enforcement. He didn't even have the courtesy to call me. I called up and said, how come you didn't call? And the secretary said, well, I called the park. What a joke. So, aside from that leak, I found out something today. Where the leak was, about 15 feet west of that, there's a manhole cover for a sewer. That wasn't leaking. The leak was down in a bunch of brush and weeds that you couldn't even determine what was leaking. And they leave it that way. The park leaves it that way. They don't cut it. During summer, you get weeds 3-4 feet tall. So you can't even determine why the leak was there, because it wasn't the sewer thing. So I sent the supervisors of the township a letter, a certified letter. Did everybody get a chance to read it? You didn't think it was a serious situation. You didn't think the cats are a serious situation. Their children could get bitten. They found one cat was rabid. They're all around the park, diseased, dying, and I mean dying. I had 2 under my bush last year, in 13. Another guy had 4 of them. The woman across, up on First Street, had many, many cats. I mean, this is a serious problem. The Chester County Health Department is no help. And this has been going on for years. And they know the source. The park owners know the source of this problem. There's 2 women that live up on First Street. That's all they do is they feed cats. Even in the winter, they open the skirting of the mobile home so the cats can get warm. And then they breed. And then the kittens run out all over the park.
Have you tried to encourage your neighbors to not feed them?
It's not the neighbors, it's just them 2 people. And the one woman is an employee of the park on 1330 Charlestown Road. She lives right next to this woman. She says, and let me tell you, they have great rules in this park. You're not supposed to feed with regard to pets. You're not supposed to feed any stray cats. No animals are allowed to roam around. You can have a dog, but you have to put it on a leash. And there are great rules. And I want to know, if the township, does they have a copy of the park rules on record? I mean...
Why would we?
Well, why wouldn't you? It's in your township. The park is in your township. Why wouldn't you have it?
Because it's private property.
I don't care what it is. It's still in your township.
It's private
Okay.
property,
I'm not
and
gonna argue
a landlord
that point.
it's a landlord tenant dispute, and
Okay.
townships cannot get involved in those.
If that's true, it's true.
If
Okay,
I
well,
could-
anyway.
If I could just interrupt you a second. Mary, we had an animal control officer. I don't think we do now.
No, we do
No,
not.
it's the SPCA.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Oh, you did have an animal?
We did.
Wonderful. I
Yeah.
guess he never showed up in the park, did he?
We
This-
do not have an animal control officer anymore.
I've been
It's the
informed he was there.
SPCA.
Or they've been there.
You know, the park they have great rules. I'd be the first one to admit it. If I read them rules, I'd want to move in that park. That's how good the rules are in that park. But they don't enforce any of them. Not any of them. The only one they would enforce is if you didn't pay your rent, and then they would evict you. That's the only one they would enforce. And getting back to the code enforcement, you know when he showed up? May the 6th. May the 6th he showed up. With all these serious problems, he showed up May the 6th.
When did you make your first request?
What?
When did you make your first request?
The 14th.
14th of
When the
April.
sewer leak was. And there was other problems, like the other serious precedent with the tanks, with the propane tanks and the cats. All these serious, I just got into the serious ones. The serious ones that where some child or some resident could get bitten or injured.
Mhm.
He never showed up till May 6th. And when he did show up, he showed up at 3:30 and he said he had to leave at 4. We did look at a couple things. I told him about the cats. He even seen a couple while he was driving there. And then I showed him old gas tanks that people use for cooking, buried in the ground. Buried in the ground. I showed him 3 of them. One of them had, well, they all had valves on them. One neighbor told me that when he opened the valve, there was gas in it yet. They're buried throughout the park. Buried. Didn't want to spend the money to get them out of the park, so they just buried them. And I found 4, and I didn't even look to the rest of the park.
Did our code enforcement officer take a look at the sewage sewer problem that you just first described? The sewer problem?
No, he never came to the park. He never came to the park.
Do you still have the issue now?
What?
Is it still an issue now?
No, they fixed it
Okay.
when the Chester County guy come down.
Oh.
Like I said, they were working on it before we even got down.
Okay.
Before we even got down there, they were working on it. They fixed it.
Good.
And they spread lime all over the place. And then, let me lose my line of thought here, but anyway, showed them the tanks that were buried in the ground, showed them the cat situation. I wanted to get into the sewer situation, but that would take too long, and he had to leave at 4 o'clock. He had to be ready. But I did show him up on Terrace Drive, there are 2 new homes that are sitting, 3/4 of the home is sitting on ground. The other quarter of the home is sitting in the air. There's no retaining wall. At each corner, they got bricks holding them up. Bricks are holding them up on the corners. Unbelievable. If there was any kind of an earthquake, they would split in half. And I just happened to notice it because the skirting was off. And well, as soon as they found out that I knew, they put the skirting back on. But there's also other homes in the Terrace Drive that need retaining walls too. My home has a retaining wall because it wasn't enough ground, and they put a retaining wall. It's only a small retaining wall. But these things are way up on the 2nd level in Terrace Drive. And it's really sad that these things go on, and these park owners get away with it day in and day out. You heard the phrase second-class citizens, trailer trash. We're below that. We're nothing. We are nothing. That's what we are in this park. Let me say, I got a letter in the mail from the township that I was harassing the code enforcement guy by calling. I was calling him because I can't get nobody on the phone. I did it a couple times after hours too. I left messages every time. I couldn't even get anybody on the phone. I don't know if my letter had anything to do with it, but after my letter, I couldn't even get in touch with him.
Okay, so our code enforcement guy came out there, saw your more significant problems.
Not all of them.
Okay, but did
Didn't
he
have
do any kind of a write-up on those?
This was out there yesterday, I haven't seen it.
I didn't hear you.
He hasn't seen the.
Let's sum it up, Jim.
Just out there yesterday.
Okay, well,
You only have 3.
One item. I could go here for hours. But
Just sum it up.
Let me bring this to attention. We want township patrols in this park. I walk
private
this
property.
park every
Private
day.
property, they can't.
I don't care what weather it is, I'm out there. Because I got diabetes, I got to exercise. I also got a neurological problem. So I got to be out there. I very seldom ever see a policeman come into this park.
It's because it's private property and they're not allowed to go in there
Yes,
unless
are
they're
when
called.
when there's a complaint.
Unless they're called for a specific complaint, but they cannot patrol in there. Am I correct on that, Jim?
We do guys here. Matter of fact, I was there twice today.
You do?
Okay.
Yeah. So who's right, you or him?
I was told that private property, they weren't allowed to go in there, but if
Why
he
don't
goes
see why
through
not?
there, then he goes through there.
Well,
It is private property.
yes, I know.
Every time you guys call, the police show up.
Yeah, they do, because I called the police the other week and they showed up. But you do make runs through
We
the
do
park.
make runs through the
Well,
park.
I'm asking you to come out nights too, because the owners of this park will sink to no level. And they don't want none of this truth to come out. And I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
I hope that you take seriously what I'm saying,
Well, we,
because I will give you the promise that this is going to go far up. I want to bring a letter.
the next step, as I see it, is for us to get this report from Yerkes and take a look and have a conversation with them.
Here's a letter from a woman who's lived in the park for years. I want you to read it. Her handwriting is not the best, but you'll get the gist of the problem with the cats, with her home, with the sewer. I mean, it's really absolutely sad when you read that letter.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Sir, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I live on First Street. Yeah,
Sign your name, your address.
cats. I've been up there 6 years. You can't cut the grass unless you want a ride mower. That's how much stuff's laying all over this ground here, bad. The disease factor, he's right on that. 35 cats, maybe more. And babies are coming now. They get under the trailer. They rip insulation out. They rip everything out that you can't get to. These trailers are not high enough to work on. So, but took many of them away. It cost money to take them down. There was a young kid over there with a baseball bat hitting the kittens. There was so how serious it is? Serious.
Thank you.
That's about the size of it.
Thank you.
I have one additional comment on this. I think cats, this is a strange analogy, but they're somewhat like deer. Deer don't know where the boundaries of properties are, and I suspect the cats don't either, okay?
Yeah, but if those two people on the First Street would stop, that would come to an end.
I'm concerned about Russell Road. Russell Road or Pothouse Road or the immediate public roads that are right at State Road, you know, the neighbors there. They have to be somewhat affected by this.
No, I've never heard any complaints about anybody
All right.
on State Road or any park outside the park. Of course, I don't know.
Yeah.
Really, it could be, but I don't know of anything. The park is in that central area.
All right, let's see if we want.
Yeah.
All right, I would like to move into executive session, please, for personal issues and litigation.
Make that motion?
Second.
Do I hear a motion?
Second.
I made it.
Second. He made it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. We'll move back into the Board of Supervisors meeting. We have talked about personal issues, litigation, and there are no more motions to be made. I would take a suggestion to adjourn the meeting.
There was going to be a motion to relieve Norman Butts of his duties as
acting
township manager.
The motion has been made that we're going to suspend the interim supervisor, and Mary Bird will be taking over as a full duty as township manager in all her ramifications. Do I hear a second for that?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. All right, now I take a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved.
Bill,
Yes.
did you know that